While Captain Sheridan was heading to Mars to rescue his father, Commander Susan Ivanova and the rest of the rebel forces were scouring Earth space, looking for holdouts and neutralizing any remaining Loyalist ship. This endeavor led to numerous small battles all over the Alliance. After weeks of searching, it was time to bring their forces together and regroup for the final stage of the war, liberating Earth herself. The location of the rendezvous was Sector 300, about 2 light-years from the Sol system. Most Earth ships still able to fight made their way to Tau Ceti 4 for quick repairs and resupply. Some remained with the main force, including the leading group of White Stars. It would be known that not all ships that joined Sheridan were very loyal to his cause. Some joined, hoping to escape any real punishment for any crimes the crew may have been involved in. By leaking information to Clark, they also hoped to play both sides, no matter who wins. One of the key pieces of information they sent was the time and location of the fleet regrouping point. For Clark, this was his real last chance to end the rebellion. Clark would commit his last ace to achieve this goal, a task force of elite ships he had held back for such a situation. He knew when and where to send the vessels with one specific order: destroy as many Earth Force ships as possible. While Clark was planning for his ambush, Commander Ivanova had just finished defeating a large Earth task force, was supervising the collection of escape pods, and was planning the next step when she learned from one of the new prisoners that President Clark knew the location of the rendezvous point and was preparing an ambush. The prisoner only knew that the ships being sent were a new type of advanced vessel. After conferring with other Earth Force captains, Commander Ivanova ordered all available White Stars to Sector 300 ahead of the slower Earth ships, which had chosen to regroup at their current location before heading to Sector 300 to join Ivanova's White Stars. The hope was that she could counter the ambush and clear the area for the other rebel ships before they arrive. Upon arriving at the coordinates, Commander Ivanova ordered the White Stars to jump into real space and began to scan the area. As she did, several jump points opened around the fleet. What emerged shocked them to their core. The ships were Omega destroyers covered with shadow vessel skin armor and armed with shadow weapons. These vessels could have easily devastated the rebel Earth ships within minutes. By doing this, the rebels would be seen only as alien troublemakers and not an actual rebellion. Ivanova acted fast. She ordered the White Stars to attack the Omegas. The destroyers' new shadow armor allowed them to shake off hits that would have commonly caused severe damage. And their new weapons had greater range and punch than the standard Omegas. The enemy fleet comprised the 10 ships that launched their fighters and tried to surround the White Stars. Commander Ivanova ordered the White Stars to form up and used her ship's speed and maneuverability to outpace the Omegas. Then, she had them break into small groups and make hit-and-run sting attacks to wear down the enemy ship's armor. The tactic worked, and soon, most of the Omegas were destroyed. A couple tried to escape, but the overwhelming number of White Stars was too much for them. As the final Omega tried to jump out, Ivanova bore down on it with almost suicidal determination. As the Omega exploded, her White Star flew through the explosion and was hit by an extensive wreckage. The damage was critical, and Ivanova herself was severely injured and was carried to an escape pod just before the vessel exploded. While the battle was won, the cost was significant. All 10 Omegas were destroyed with all hands, and over 24 White Stars were also lost. Commander Ivanova's injuries forced her to retire from the field and be sent back to Babylon 5. But there was some good news. Sheridan had been rescued and returned to the rebel fleet. Now, Sheridan was ready to finish the war. At the request of Commander Ivanova, he would lead the attack from his flagship, the Agamemnon. But Clark still had enough ships to make the battle difficult. But Sheridan had his aces, too, and was about to use them to save thousands of lives. After Sheridan's rescue, he quickly reunited with his commanders and returned to the rebel forces. At the request of Commander Susan Ivanova, He took command of the Agamemnon as his flagship. He began planning the final stage of the liberation of Earth, aiming to take down President Clark. This task would be particularly challenging, as all Loyalist ships had no place to retreat and were determined to stand their ground until the end. It was a tragic repeat of the Battle of the Line from the Minbari War 13 years earlier. Earth Force would throw everything it could into stopping him. Everyone understood that Mars was the key to the Earth system. Although Earth was the main target, Mars had a substantial contingent of troops and ships protecting it. If Sheridan bypassed Mars, the Earth's defense grid could hold his forces at bay while the fleet at Mars attacked his flank. Therefore, Sheridan needed to neutralize the forces there before he could advance on Earth. However, Sheridan had one more major ace up his sleeve. During the Shadow War, he had captured a transport ship carrying hundreds of rogue telepaths in stasis. The Shadows had them implanted with advanced cybernetics, forcing them to serve as pilots for shadow vessels. When one of the telepaths awoke, she immediately attempted to merge with Babylon 5's computer, causing many of the station's systems to malfunction. Despite the station's medical staff's best efforts to save them, they needed resources from Earth to help, if possible. While Sheridan was making plans, Dr. Franklin and Lyda Alexander were en route to Mars, bringing 30 telepaths to use against Earth's fleet in Mars orbit. The Resistance leader was not pleased with the idea of using the telepaths as weapons, but by sacrificing these 30, Sheridan hoped to save 30,000 crew members. Meanwhile, Michael Garibaldi was leading teams to secure the outer perimeter of one of Mars's large military bases, aiming to weaken the Mars defense grid. As the telepaths were smuggled onto the Omega destroyers, several white stars conducted rapid reconnaissance of the outer planets, revealing them stripped of military defenses and posing no threat. Most surrendered to Sheridan even before the white stars jumped into the system. However, Mars and Earth had been fortified, prepared for the final assault. Mars had 36 Omega destroyers in high orbit, waiting for Sheridan to make his next move. These ships were among the most loyal to Clark. The rest had either surrendered or been cut off from Earth and trapped. General Robert Lefcourt, another veteran of the Minbari War, commanded the fleet and knew the upcoming battle would be an all-or-nothing fight. He did his best to bolster the fleet's morale. Unbeknownst to General Lefcourt, Sheridan's plan was already in motion. Once Garibaldi secured the perimeter outposts, Lyda Alexander contacted the telepaths aboard the Omegas and awakened them. At the same time, a white star made a dangerous atmospheric jump over the Mars base and attacked. Lefcourt recognized this as a diversion, instructing the fleet to maintain formation. Then, Sheridan made his jump. As he entered, the telepaths merged with the Omega's computers, causing chaos. Systems failed, communications were lost, and the ship's engines lost power. Suddenly, 30 of the 36 Omegas were disabled without a single shot fired. The white stars quickly went to work, neutralizing the remaining Omegas. With this task complete, the fleet jumped to hyperspace to end the war once and for all. Most League ships stayed behind to monitor the Earth vessels in case they encountered trouble. At 1:45 a.m. Earth Standard Time, Captain John Sheridan and the fleet arrived in Earth orbit. Every rebel Earth ship positioned itself around Earth, while the other races held back. Sheridan then addressed the people of Earth, stating that they had come to place President Clark under arrest and return the government to the people. As he spoke, resistance fighters, political leaders in hiding, and even average citizens across the globe began to rise and fight back. Meanwhile, utterly defeated and consumed by rage, Clark activated the orbital defense network against Earth. Determined to bring destruction with him if he were going down, President Morgan Clark, dictator, murderer, terrorist, and war criminal, took his own life just as the doors to his office were forced open. When word of his death reached Sheridan, he ordered all ships, regardless of origin, to destroy the satellites. Hundreds of ships and fighters united to take down the satellite. Several ships were lost, including some of those from the Mars fleet that could address the telepath issue. With the defense grid destroyed, the war was over. All remaining Loyalist ships stood down. However, Earth now faced a crossroads. They had to grapple with the aftermath of the war and the war crimes that had been committed. Sheridan himself would need to face an inquiry for his actions. The long process of rebuilding had begun.